You can't
I
even
gotta
see
remind
me.
myself to sit up straight too, and we're live.
All right. So today's episode is going to be about full reps and full sets. With my host here, Greg, on Flex for Life. First and foremost, please follow, subscribe, share, like, all that to help our
Tell
numbers grow.
everybody around the world that you know about the podcast.
Yeah, please, please, please. It'll really help. But Greg, I don't know how I came up with this, but throughout my entire career, I just believed in full range stretching, to the point where the muscle, almost super exceeds its range, and then fully contracting. I know, there's certain people who didn't train like that. One that comes to mind for me is Berto Fox. It was very short range,
Going way
built a
back.
lot of density, a lot of muscle. I think Branch Warren was kind of like that also. So it's not that my way is the only way, but it worked for me. So we can pull up a video back when I was getting ready for the Olympia, and you can see as I'm peeling off my
Shirt off,
shirt
that's
here.
cool.
Yeah. But even here, it's all the way up, all the way down. And I just and here in bicep, all the way elongating the muscle all the way down. I know, like when I would train clients, it's really difficult. So as you extend that muscle all the way, it's at its weakest point. But I always just thought, like, there's muscle there, and if you don't train it, it's not going to grow. So I just, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've always been for full range of motion, especially there. I mean, you always really highlighted the stretch portion of the actual repetition. So I mean, I know what you're talking about because I didn't know the Bertle Fox guy, but Branch Warren tend to at least get the stretch portion. It seemed like he always went to the full, like on the bicep maybe, or tries. Or I remember watching him doing shoulder presses. He'd always get to the lowest bottom part. He might only go up halfway
Yeah,
or towards the way, but he
yeah,
got the stretch portion of it for sure. Whereas you're
yeah,
getting the stretch and the contraction. So the eccentric and concentric is full.
yeah,
But everybody's a little bit different too, and obviously he was successful.
yeah. No,
I
I
know.
just I just always believe in that because I'm like, there's muscle tissue at the end of that stretch. Why not engage it, so that you can have a fuller muscle? And I've always wanted to have a complete muscle from the various different angles that you would see me in instead of a certain angle. So, you know, um, it just always, even here, all the way up, and especially for triceps, I just always thought of when you're doing triceps, what are you doing on stage? You're actually contracting it fully. So I would always go to the full contraction range and then all the way up to the stretching range. And then doing biceps, come all the way up to the point where you're fully contracting because that's what you're displaying on stage. So I'm trying to train the muscle to be able to perform on stage also.
Yeah, no, I'm just getting over how you always get the watch highlighted in these videos. Sorry,
you know,
I know.
jewelry wasn't really I don't know. I just always believed in just wearing, if I had a nice watch, wear it. This watch here, I remember it was my first
Oh,
Bufado, I think you pronounce it. And Robin Chain had bought it for me for my birthday. So I just thought it was a beautiful watch, man. I mean, you know, why not just wear it in the gym? Even my Rolex, my presidential Rolex. I mean, like, why not? I mean,
well,
but here
actually,
you
want to
can
highlight
see,
right here with these overhead tricep presses.
yeah.
Putting your arm into this position and then getting a full range, you're getting even more of a stretch.
Yeah. And here, fully stretching. I mean, to the point where I'm elongating and coming all the way up and contracting. I just thought it was just 100% necessary. So you can see here where I'm completely stretching, elongating the muscle and fully coming up and contracting it. And I have a system, I have a rhythm that I try not to break. So it's not like, it's fully and then fully come up. No, it's in unity. Here, I'm bending all the way back and stretching all the way forward in that tricep, and I'm coming to the full extent as if I'm locking down in a tricep pose in doing that. I don't know how that got in there, Mitsuru.
I think that's the cameraman.
Yeah, Mitsuru, shame on you for getting that in there.
Now, was this a Charles Glass philosophy or something you already did?
No, this is something just I already did. He would talk about like elongating and stretching a muscle in certain exercises, but in certain other exercise, I knew that I was very proficient in it, and he's seen that, and he would just coach me through it and stuff like that. But that was always one of my ideals, even back from my Fresno days working at, Fitness Plus and Danae's. I just always felt that way. Just, it's like when you throw a technique, when you throw a side kick, you throw it all the way and you lock it out, and at the extent of that kick is where all the power is. So it's different than where you're throwing an actual hook, because that's a technique where you're keeping your body close and everything like that. But I was, even in fighting, all my techniques were very elongated. If I threw a punch, I threw it and I fully thrust all the way through it. If I threw a kick, I fully extended all the way through it to reach you or to impact you.
All right. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I know you guys. There's actual research to back everything you just say. That's why I'm going to pull this one up. And this is on clinical trials, but it was published, peer reviewed research study on the lengthening of muscles and its effect on both hypertrophy and strength. And they now this is in elderly individuals, but they wanted to look at someone who was very deconditioned, very weak at the situation. So going from the rock bottom, they found that it was at that lengthened position that a lot of the muscle protein synthesis was activated, and everything got stronger and grew more efficiently. So, uh, good thing is everything you brought up was later backed up by science, almost like acupuncture. They were doing it for thousands of years, but then research came around and said, yeah, this does work, and this is why.
Yeah, not the pat myself on the back, but I just instinctively did these very different things, and then later on, because somebody's ability to put words into play or to be able to express it in a different way, they
Mhm.
come out with this training philosophy or these three-letter words, and take off and run with it. And it's like they invented it. And also, I'm aware that a lot of things I did, back in the 90s, we didn't record them. There was no cameras where you can record everything now. Very few of my fights, they're back on Super 8. They haven't been transferred over. And then in the gym, the only time you got to see us on video was if somebody came in and recorded us getting ready for a show. So that wasn't that often. I was maybe, once or twice a year. But we got some more videos that we can display. Even with yourself, you believed in full range exercises.
Well, so much so, like, and we looked at modifications, but you just did biceps. Here's a version that I like to use with cables and a seat, but to take advantage of that as well. Um, so what I like with this one is I get the full stretch at the bottom or at the end of the beginning of the rep, but what the cables do is it creates the most resistance at a 90-degree angle at full
Yeah,
extension.
yeah. Yeah. Now, did you always, like I said, I know a lot of, especially strong people, they're not willing to fully extend that muscle out, because maybe they haven't trained that way. And it does feel weird at the beginning, like getting back in the gym now, I got to be really, really careful when I fully extend that muscle out, because obviously it can detach and tear, but over time it gets stronger and stronger. Did you always train that way, and why?
I did just because it just made more sense to me to go through the full range of motion, right? But I mean, bullet point there. I have been playing around with lengthened partials, which is more what Branch Warren I think did,
Mhm.
um, just to play around with some things, and we'll go over my research reasoning for that a little bit later. But no, for the most part, it just seems like if you're going to start something, finish it and finish it right. Just the
Yeah.
logic part of that. I don't think you can go wrong by doing it fully. Is I
Yeah.
guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a couple more videos of me just demonstrating that throughout my training career. These were back when I was actually getting ready for the Olympia, my comeback in Olympia. And what was it, 2000?
17,
2018.
somewhere around there.
But here you can see I'm fully stretching and fully contracting when I'm doing these cable crossovers, and I could really feel the stretch in the outer pectorals, and just absolutely every exercise I did, even if it's quads, fully squeeze, fully let it always stretch to the point of where it's painful, and continuously doing that. But over time, again, your body gets used to it, and doing that. And we got a couple more
Yeah, well, let's
videos.
reverse that motion actually. So
Yeah,
rear
let's,
delts. Now,
yeah.
disclaimer: this is Darius's fault on this on the video
Oh,
part.
this video here. Yeah, my son videotaping me.
Oh,
Oh no, this is the same one.
there we go.
Here we go. You can see Darius in the background there. Uh, but yeah, this is again getting ready for my comeback in the.
That's the rear delts. I mean, his arms are literally crossing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm completely. Yeah, sorry about that, Darius. Yeah, great.
I think we
But
got the
yeah,
point.
I'm coming all the way to the point where I'm allowing the waist to fully stretch and then come back from that, because I felt that there's muscle tissue at the end of that. At a point, yeah, you are stretching the tendon to a certain degree. And I know, like, before, a lot of power lifters would say they don't believe in full range or stretching because they didn't want to stretch that tendon because it would cause it to get weaker. But I think it's been proven, if you train that way, that tendon actually gets stronger and it's able to handle it. And even you, showing you doing your squats, actually, no, your straight leg deadlift, you're fully stretching and doing that to the point of almost, to the point where the hamstring is now engaging in the actual attachment of the hamstrings, and you can see there fully elongating, coming all the way to the point of contracting. Pretty good
Yeah, that's
definition there in the hamstrings there, son.
yeah, that's. I mean, what the reason I do that is, or I like doing it that way is, there's some limitation. This is more of a modification, right? There's limitations with doing deadlifts because the plates hit the ground.
Yeah,
And you can do some things with smaller plates, but there at that gym we have bumper plates, which even the what would be the 10-pound plates, which are 5 kilos, or sorry, the 25 pounders, which are 10 kilos. They're the regular size of a 45, so there's no way to get around that. You hit the ground. So
yeah,
standing on a platform allows you to go a little bit deeper. And I'm actually, my goal is to try to, do a toe touch for the most part with the same form, and it gets you a lot more range of motion. But this
yeah,
is actually a cool thing because I mean, Flex, you were doing this in the '90s, where a lot of the YouTube, Instagram, TikTok fitness influencers are promoting this now. It's like their magic wand or magic pill to kind of get that extra little oomph out of it.
yeah. What's crazy is, again, there's no video of it, but like when I did straight leg deadlift, like you're right, you would hit the ground before you fully stretch. So obviously, I was incredibly flexible back then. I would actually stand on a bench and bring the bar up and let it rest on a bench. I'll put three plates
Oh,
on it, and I would elongate all the way to the point where I would almost stretch all the way down below the actual bench and then contract all the way up. And obviously that can probably be conceived as dangerous for your back. But like I said, I was young then, body was injury free, and I felt like Superman. But that's how I got my full stretch. I would actually stand on a bench and actually do that and just stretch to the point of almost like, my head is touching my knees,
hmm.
and I'll elongate my arms, including doing that, and then contract and come all the way back up. But shame there's no video of that back then.
I think I guess the plus side for things nowadays is that they've recognized these are pluses, and they're
Mm.
developing ancillary equipment that gyms can purchase to make it safe. I would say it wasn't safe for you because you were you at the time, but I'd say the equipment can make it a little bit unsafe because they could have benches that aren't well maintained, or you always get the. I think we're going to do a Jim Peeves pet peeve video one day, but there's always people who aren't paying attention walking around, especially now with cell phones that could walk into your
Yeah,
path.
yeah. We
Um,
even had that back in the 90s. Like, you know, there became a saying which I don't agree to. Like, we were use incredible weight like bench pressing dumbbells, like 180s. And, when we're done, we like, watch out. And we just drop it, and it bounce all around. And then it became these, you know, gyms where they really weren't bodybuilding, oriented, didn't want you making a lot of noise. Then it became these signs, don't drop your weight. And if you can't control it, you can't use it. But that's BS. That's where you find a lot of injuries when you're doing an extreme amount of weight and then you bring it back down when you're done, or your muscles is actually at the point of fatigue. We would just drop it, right there. I mean, watch your toes. And it would be people who would be walking by while we were doing that, and we scream, watch out. And next thing you know, we're dropping it. And they look at us like we're out of our minds. But in Gold's Gym Venice, that was absolutely just normal. That was back in the heydays where they had massive, um, um, rubber pads all over the gym. And it was just known to do that, to drop your weight. And it was considered going to your maximum, where now, gyms really don't believe in that. They're not really geared for it. And they're not actually really geared for a high level power lifters or bodybuilders. That's why you now have these
Planet
segmented
Fitness.
gyms where they're more of a powerlifting gym and more
Yeah.
of a bodybuilding or physical fitness gym.
Or Planet Fitness.
I'm not going to pull any names. I didn't say
I,
that.
I
Just
said
in
it.
case,
I said it. I
just in
will
case
always
they'd
say it.
like to sue or anything like that. That was my co-host Greg, not me, and I'm taking responsibility
Yeah,
for
don't
that.
Jimmy Kimmel us, please. But no, I think that kind of goes back to a conversation we had a former show when you talked about overtraining. I think that's the problem, is that people who are afraid about overtraining probably are nowhere near it, and
Yeah.
people who aren't afraid of overtraining might be getting a little bit close. But the thing is, I know the research says, I mean, stopping or program your sets to where you're within 1 to 2 reps in reserve, which basically means stopping to the point where you can still control it to a certain extent, but you're still spent. Like one more, you'd have to drop it. Um, if you're doing this correctly and you're getting the most out of every repetition, in some situations it is going to be dropping, right? I mean, in some situations you probably, I mean, if you're using some machines, let's say a lat pull down, or like
Yeah.
the we're going to pull up a hammer strength version of lat pull down, you know, pulling that last rep out and dropping it from the bottom probably isn't the best thing ever, or not necessarily needed. But deadlifts, in some cases squats, um, dumbbell presses, bench presses, and like, that's kind of you get that last rep out of the bench press, you're gonna you're gonna want to get it back on those hooks as quickly as possible before it strangles you.
Yeah, I mean, I just my analogy on that overtraining, I don't believe it's possible. As long as you have proper rest, proper nutrition, I'm a believer that we only can use a small percentage of our brain power. So where the mind goes, the body follows. And you know, our bodies are so incredibly made that I don't think we can actually push it to its limit. When you come to that, I mean, you have a man-made airplane and it can fly millions and millions of miles with very little maintenance. It can't heal itself or any of those things. So I think, as far as overtraining, um, I don't think it's possible as long as you have proper nutrition and rest. And even like over sets and over reps, they say like, oh, you can't train the same muscle group over and over and over. Well, people in prison have proven that wrong, right? Some guys just bench all day long, every day, and they're known to have some of the most incredible, pectoral development. And you have other guys who they just work arms every day, and they have some of the craziest biceps and triceps. And again, I've used this analogy before, but you look at a cyclist, a speed cyclist, their legs are in a squat position all day long, and they have the most amazing leg development, and all they train is legs. So I just think that the body will get used to it and it will learn to endure. Just like here in Vegas, I am now used to very hot seasons. But if I move to somewhere like Antarctica is going to be very difficult for me, where those people are going to be it's going to be very normal for them. I'm not used to it. Take me years of getting used to that. So I think, you know, I just really, I just don't believe in that. And if you take those two, different points I made about, people in prison and cyclists, or what is it, the ski specialists, ski skaters, um, their legs are just around, just crazy as quads and hamstrings, and all they do is train legs. All they do is cycle. All they do is speed skating, um, and their body has gotten used to it, and it just grows and grows and grows.
Now the caveat there though is he did bring up rest and nutrition. So if you are a 10-hour day worker who commutes an hour each way and eats McDonald's all day long, that's not the ideal situation for you either.
Well, you're going to have problems regarding that. When I say that, I'm talking about an athlete at his upper echelon, because he's been already doing it for years. A pro athlete at his highest point has been doing it as a professional for a long period of time, not to mention an amateur for even probably longer. Again, it takes time to get your body conditioned to be able to do that. It's not going to happen, overnight. But I just don't feel that it's possible. So a beginner can handle a full workout anyway. So of
No,
course, a beginner is going to run into his failure, a lot quicker than a pro or an elite athlete. You look at, like, even sprinters. If they sprint the 100-yard dash, they actually train running the 200 or the 400, getting their bodies used to that. You look at, people who run marathons, they run longer distance, getting used to that shorter distance. So it's been proven that you can just, the body's is an amazing thing. There's records of, where a woman would get into a car accident and she was literally lifting a car, and saving her kids. Just, I forgot what it is, but something like 4 or 5% of the brain power that we only use, and something like, the geniuses, or something like 8 or 9. Don't get me, don't quote me on that, but I know it's right around that. But I mean, there's 90% more brain power there that we just haven't even tapped into. So
mhm.
again, where the mind goes, the body will follow. So just imagine if you had 20% brain power. I mean, you'd probably be one of those superheroes, and look what their bodies can do, even on
Scarlett
camera.
Johansson did a movie about that.
Exactly.
So, I mean, getting back to topic we started with, I'm going to pull up a couple more videos that you're doing more back related pull exercises. But what was your philosophy on tempos back then, as far as the speed of your repetitions? I mean, did you just, was it control both ways? Did you slow things down on the negative? What was your thought process there?
No, I just, we all have a cadence. We walk at a certain cadence. Our heartbeat has a certain rhythm. So I believe, like, when I was training, my first 1 or 2 reps would be like, I'd close my eyes and I'll, like, okay, this is my rep range, this is my contraction. And then I would just go into a natural rhythm. And I would try not to break that rhythm unless I got to the point where I was fatiguing. And then I would, like, okay, let me change my rhythm. So if my rhythm is like 1, 2, 3, 4, and I started getting exhausted, then I would change it to 1, 2, 3. And if it got to that point where I was going to fatigue, then it would be just like 1, 2,
All right, so the more
because
tired
of
you got, you
course,
slowed it down.
huh?
The more tired you got, you slowed it down and controlled it even more.
Yeah, to control it even more, because my overall goal was not to stop. If I'm doing 20s, like, when I'm training my clients, I'm like, listen, don't stop. Even if you have to slow down completely, just don't stop. That rep range is the main thing you're doing, not the weight.
Okay, so here's you again, that either 17 or 18 Olympia prep, classic physique, by the way, right? Not open, but you're
Right.
doing the hammer strength lat pull down, iso lat pull down. So
You
obviously
see, I'm even
stretch,
starting with a full stretch.
yeah. So right now at this point, you're just going with your natural rhythm.
Yeah, just my natural rhythm.
I don't think you recorded enough to get the point where you're fatigued. But tempo
Yeah.
wise, you're about the same on the concentric and the eccentric. It goes same tempo up and down.
Yeah, no, I just didn't believe in changing that
Okay.
unless I was going to run into a point where I had to make a decision and slowing down or stopping, and then it would just be slowing down and changing that. So if it was just one, two, three, four, I haven't stopped. And even if it's just like one, and I come down and I pause, you always find that you have a little bit more energy that you can do just one more, and you stop. You can just do one more. So that was just always my goal. But as you can see there, I'm starting fully elongating my arms, fully elongating my shoulder blades, and that's going to be my rep range that I'm going to complete.
Right. Because if you, I mean, just to pull one of mine back again, if I'm doing the deadlifts, I don't know if you noticed, but I slow things down on the negative portion.
I
The
do.
way up, get more explosive, the way up, and slow, slow, slow. And that for me was purely self-preservation because I am going deep.
Yeah.
I am older, and that was recently, by the way. That was like last week. So, but no, it's that I think is more towards I've become smarter with age, and I don't want to pull anything.
Yeah, just like I said now, just getting back in the gym, obviously seeing a one video on I'm in my prime and it's a heavy weight and I'm just like ramming it. But
Yeah,
now, no, I'm very careful. I do things very slowly. I understand that my joints aren't the way they used to be. My tendons aren't the way they used to be. There's a lot more injury. There's a lot more micro tears that are going on there. And I just, so the difference is I'm exercising now. I'm not really weight training. I
mm-hmm.
don't I don't weight train anymore. That's dangerous for me. I'm just getting there, exercising, trying to get some blood in the muscle, trying to get my heart rate up. So it's more about preservation now than it is of actually building muscle. And it's difficult because I when I go in the gym, I have a certain mentality. I'm back in my zone, and I got to remind myself that you're not that guy anymore. Don't even try it. And even it's reminded to me that the very, very lightweight I have to use just in training, it keeps me in that zone. But even then, my brain goes back to no, go all out. Like, no, 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 dude, you're not that guy anymore. So, you
I
know,
had
uh,
that today doing my workout.
really,
I was having a good workout, and it was one of those days when you're like, "That stuff felt good. Maybe we should go up a little bit more." And then the back of your head, you're like, "You know better. You know better than that."
yeah,
But
it's
it's funny.
difficult when you've been an elite athlete to tone it down. I still have the same philosophy. I still believe in the same like rep range and stuff like that. But obviously, the huge difference is going to be my rest periods and amount of weight that I use. Everything else is actually the same.
Right. So I mean, it's now in that vein. There are some of us, some other guys our age that do want to maybe not train to get on stage or compete in anything, but to train to look good. Even in their 50s or late 40s, early 50s, because they have vacations coming up. But something that kind of blew my mind. This is going to blow your mind, also semi-related. This is 52-year-olds in different phases. So Paul Rudd, this is him, 52 years old, after they filmed the last Avengers film at the premiere.
Really?
And that is Wilford Brimley, 52 years old, when they filmed the movie Cocoon from back in the 80s.
Wow. Wow.
Same age in these two pictures.
Wow.
Isn't that kind of crazy?
Wow. Yeah, again, because of the internet now, I see these women in the gym and they'll be in their 80s, deadlifting, squatting. This one lady, she actually competes. And I think like she's in her upper 70s or 80s and she looks, amazing. Now, obviously, she's just a rare form. You have most people in their 70s or 80s and they're like, dealing with all kind of health problems and arthritis and hunched over and very limited muscle mass. But that's always, that's always not really surprised me because I get and even my dad, he was in his late 50s and he was one of my school teachers and everybody thought he was my older brother. and girls would even like, who's that? And I'm like, that's my dad, you but just I just turned 60, and even though I feel it, people still constantly like, why you don't look like you're 60? I'm like, well, what is a 60-year-old person supposed to look like?
Well, let me blow your mind with this one. Did you ever watch Three's Company when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Mr. Roper in the first couple seasons, he was younger than you in that first season. Now
Wow.
he was only in his early 50s. He was younger than me when they
Wow.
filmed that TV show. The actor, I don't know what they decided the character was going to be, but
Do
a
you
lot of
think it's do you think it's lifestyle, um,
yes, I think they said it's lifestyle
drugs?
because there were smokers back then also that we weren't.
Yeah. Mm.
But with that in mind, what I was kind of getting at was we were talking about the tempos. There was a whole movement about slowing things down on the eccentric or the negative portion of the movement, thinking that there's been a lot of research on that, thinking that maybe it would help the boost up the hypertrophy aspect or muscle growth aspect. So a lot of research went into this, and basically they found not a whole lot of difference. So basically, if you did a really slow eccentric versus just a controlled eccentric like Flex does versus a slow 2 to 3 second one like I do, they found basically a minuscule difference between the two as far as one is better than the other. Like I said, for me, I did it purely for, I mean, hopefully maybe it does give me a little bit of a boost because I do plan on getting back on stage again after I pay for my much unnecessary pro card again. But
Careful.
careful. For this year, I won't be using it. So that's why it's a little bit weird. But at the same time, I am older. I will be competing as a master. So it's not like we're in our 20s again where we didn't even warm up, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and even when we're warmed up, I've had a couple of injuries right towards the end of my workout where I should have been fine from anything being pulled. So at the
Yeah.
very least, like even Flex, we're going to pull up another video from this 17 or 18 prep where he's doing a T-bar row. And this one, if I remember correctly, a little bit more control in that one.
Yeah. But still fully elongated and
Oh,
fully
fully.
contracted.
I think the only thing that stopped me is that chest pack from getting even more of a stretch.
Yeah. Oh, man. Jeez. Good grief. Gosh. Well, I'm still just, I hate it. I'm still that guy. When I'm training or when I look my best, all I see is just failures. Oh, this doesn't look good. Oh, this doesn't look good. And I sit around my house and I see all these photos. I'm like, dude, good grief. Oh my God. But at that moment, all I can do is just rip that photo apart. But again, I think just the slowing down on the eccentric is more um, a safety thing because we're older, not because I never did it, before. I just didn't believe in it. It was just full range.
Mhm.
Um, and it was all about a tempo that I wanted to achieve and not break. Now, like I said, when I'm doing curls, even when I'm doing leg curls, I'm very careful on the extension, the extension or the eccentric, because that's where it's going to tear. That's where the muscles are going to detach, or I'm actually going to tear it. So that's, for me, that's the more dangerous part of an exercise. So that's the reason why I'm doing it now. It's more or less for safety reasons, not for a specific achievement of muscularity.
Self-preservation.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on the? I mean, like I said, I've toyed around with the lengthened eccentrics, or towards that stretch portion, and I guess best way to put it is Branch Warren style. Now, you mentioned someone else that trained similarly
Oh
back in
yeah,
the.
Bertle Fox, brutal Bertle. Yeah, he was just short range everything. It was
Anybody
just
else?
trim tight, and that was it.
Anybody else who to train that way? Because I remember Lee Priest making fun of people who did that, but there's obviously been some people who are very successful in the physique world. I mean, Branch Warren
Sure.
obviously was very successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his training partner
Oh,
trained that
Ronnie
way.
or
Huh?
Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny trained that way also. No, like I said at the beginning, I don't think there's a wrong or right way. I think, just physiologically, we kind of gravitate, towards a certain, training style, and then we adapt that and it becomes our own. So
Mhm.
obviously, good grief, Brian's built some dense, muscle training that way. I did okay building
Right.
some muscle mass training that way. Dorian's way is completely different. Mike Mincer's way is completely different. So, you know,
Ronnie did a bit of
there's
both, didn't he?
Ronnie was full range. Yeah, he was full range. Like in his squats. Good grief, man. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's almost to the point where he's damaging his knees. He's bending down so much on that. But I'll put it like this: there's more than one way to get to a destination. Like get into your house, there's probably a couple of different ways you can go to get there, but you choose a certain way, and that is your way. I know me and my wife, we get into this conversation all the time. If I'm driving, she's like, "Why don't you go this way?" And I'm like, "Hey,
Oh
I
boy.
got it."
I think
I'm
that's every marriage.
yeah, I'm like, I'm driving. I got it. This is the way I go. Well, this way is fast. And I'm like, but how do you know that? You don't know that. Um, but there's more than one way of, more than one way of skinning a cat. So obviously there's more than one way of having a train philosophy. And if it at the end of the day, if it works for you, it works for you. If you're not comfortable with it, then try another one and see if that works. Or maybe you might have to hybrid and take, this philosophy for this exercise and then choose a different one for another exercise. But at the end of the day, you own it and now it's your philosophy.
Yeah, actually staying within the physique realm, someone who I've noticed lately that's been taking your philosophy where it's a deep stretch and a full range of motion has been Nick Walker. He's
Hmm.
been really highlighting the fact, even on leg presses, his calves are touching his hamstrings when he gets to the bottom. And you can't tell me he doesn't have thick muscles.
Yeah, again, jeez, man, his density is just wow. It's really it's really amazing how you can push the human limits with certain people. Some people just have that gene where they're just going to grow, but they have to tap into it. But when that person figures out who they are, you just got to stand back and just be in awe of the muscle mass that they can achieve. Even like ballet, I just always been so in awe with their flexibility and their ability to, back in our days, when we fought, we call it taking to the air. When you just did a flying technique, take to the air on them, but Jim just jumping and just elongating, and just flying in the air. Those things has always amazed me of, just the at the highest level what a person can do. Even basketball players just, I mean, their ability to know that they're going to make a long distance shot over and over and over. It's just absolutely amazing. I think more so than not, we're amazed by things that we can't do, or we used to do. I think that's, at least for me, it amazes me things that people can do that I can never do. Or now it amazes me things that people are doing that I no longer can do. Like that actual um, video I had tagged Keon Pearson on it, and I said, "Hey, man, you're the closest thing I've seen to my type of muscle density and separation and stuff like that." When I see him in the gym, I'm like, I remember meeting him when he was a kid, and like thinking, "Wow, you have an incredible physique." And sometimes I'll ask him like, "Did you ever think that?" He goes, "Nah, not in my wildest dreams, but I'm enjoying it." But yeah, it's just amazing, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's some food for thought for everybody on getting that full stretch on every single repetition. And actually,
Yep.
that could even force out a few extra if you just maybe getting that full range, and if you're looking for some more volume, getting some lengthened partials to end it out.
Yeah. And again, that's how I learned. The few magazines that I would see, I would gravitate towards a certain physique, look at the way they train that way. If it didn't work, maybe take this, that out of it, look at this person, gravitate towards that. And then I end up coming with my own training system. So, at the end of the day, what we're getting at, what works for you, and nobody can tell you different, whether it's written in a book or somebody's talking about it. If it works for you, it works for you. Believe in yourself, especially when others don't. And there you have it, another segment of Flex for Life with my co host, Greg. Again, please like, follow, and subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll see you next time.